Welcome, animators. And so today we are going to finish up our Toppings Galore ice cream bar flyer. And this is part 4 in the series, or part D if you want to look at it. And it really is a lesson 0, but I've been calling it lesson 1. So lesson 1, I'll call it lesson 1B. All right, so today we're going to work on getting our ice cream cone and kind of our seal in the back and getting things tightened up before we finish this up. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to work with a curvature tool. And those of you who are going to be using this tool and have a history with Adobe products are going to recognize this as the pen tool, like in Photoshop or Animate, right? And that tool is, I'm going to go ahead and press V, right? So I can actually select the tool. And it's actually going to be this tool right here, the curvature tool, right? And again, you can see it here. It's going to be the 4th one down, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's going to be right here, the curvature tool. Again, hover, and it'll give you all the list of the tools that you need to see there. That's what you know. This is, again, the curvature. We're going to click that. All right. And we can draw and edit paths and do all of those cool things. But before we do that, I'm going to go back to this selection tool. And I want to come back. If you're not in your layers panel, look at your layers panel. We actually want to, we're actually going to start a practice that I like to do. And that's to create a layer for different elements. That way we can kind of put it all together as we move along. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to create a new layer down here. Again, when you create the new layer, hover over, it's a little plus sign. And we're going to double click that, and we're going to call this cone. C-O-N-E. All right. We're going to call that the cone. And the cone is going to actually, let's put it on top for a minute, and then I'll have you guys redo this cone deal in a second. So now let's go ahead and get this curvature tool. And what we're going to do is we're going to create some paths really quickly, and we're going to create it right now. So let's go ahead and start. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of pick a spot. It doesn't really matter. Over here on the left-hand side of the ice cream scoop. And basically you're going to click on there. Just click one little drop, and you're going to see that it turned out to have a cool dot, right? And then when we do that, we're going to just basically make like a triangle. I'm going to come down all the way down here, right? I'm probably a bigger cone. And I'm going to click that. And all of a sudden, boom, you're going to see a line appear. So you see that? So it was one dot, and then now we clicked another dot. Rewind it if you need to see that again. Put it in slow motion. And what we're going to do here is now I want to put another dot where I want to go. So this whole tool works on the future. So you basically have a start point where I started it, and then I wanted to go down. So I basically went all the way down and put a dot where I wanted to stop. Just like if you were drawing with a pen or pencil, you start and then you just go, except you don't have to hold it down. You can just draw 2 points and it naturally goes. But watch what happens when I move this curvature tool, right? You start seeing this yellow line. I'm colorblind. It could be green, right? What is this? What does it say here? It looks like it doesn't tell me the color, but mine looks green. Yours may be a different color, probably blue or yellow. So I'm actually going to bring it out here to where it's going to be, and I guess, and the other scoop of ice cream, right? Boom. And now it has this kind of U shape, right? Now, that's not exactly what I want, but I'll adjust it in a second. And so now you see it starts putting the lines together. But you notice it didn't do a straight line. It actually moved the other line, the previous line. That's because this tool works in a very unique way to give you more smooth lines and smooth curves. Remember, this is not a line tool. If we were just going to do straight lines, there's another tool for that. And we'll get into that later. This is a tool to make unique shapes, right? That's why it's called the curvature tool, because it really specializes in curves. So what we're going to do now, we're going to, these little points that I'm clicking, they're called anchor points, right? And you need to remember, these are anchor points, so remember what I call those. Now we're going to move it back to the right and click and release the drawing the shape, right? But I want you to notice the path, that it's going straight across, and then it disappears when I hover right over the first anchor point that I dropped. And if I click on this anchor point, it closes the path. But now it made this weird deal, right? But don't worry, we're going to get it to where we want it, right? We still have to adjust it, right? So it made this really weird outer shape. So we're going to start playing with these, I guess, anchor points in a second, right? So we're going to navigate to that. So we're going to move the pointer over to the point you made at the bottom of the shape, the bottom of the V, right? Okay, and then we're going we're basically going to hover over it until we see the pointer, right, or the tool where it looks like a pen and a line. It transforms itself when you get close or you hover over the anchor point into like a little bullseye. All right. When you see that little bullseye, all right, we're going to change it in a second. We're going to double click it to make a corner. So when it looks like a bullseye, we'll double click it. And now it's more of a sharp curve. It's not a curve anymore. I'll undo so you can see it. So here it is walking around. And when you hover over the anchor point, when you see the bullseye, double click, and it makes a sharp edge, right? It tightens up that curve. All right. So now what we'll do is we'll do that to all of the points. So here's a bullseye. Okay, bullseye again. I'll double click that. And here's another bullseye over here, and I'll double click that. You got to do it on the anchor points. Now I have a triangle, and it does look more like a cone, doesn't it? All right. So we're going to go ahead and deselect it. Once we finish this up, now we have this cool looking cone. And I'm going to go ahead and go click on my selection tool up here. And then I'm going to go ahead and say select and then deselect. Okay. Once again, I went to this selection tool and come up here, right, where it says select and then deselect. That way the cone is all by itself. That's our shape. Really simple, real easy. When you start creating your projects, use this tool. You're going to be required to use all these tools, but use this tool and play around with it. You're going to have multiple days to play around with the shapes tool, the curvature tool, all these tools, and of course the text tool to create your page when we get into our project. But I'll talk more about that later. All right. So here we go. This is the ice cream cone, but we want some color. We want to make it look a little more professional. So now we're going to talk about coloring in, just like a coloring book, but we want to work with something more advanced. We've done the solid colors when we did the ice cream scoops, but now we're going to use what we call gradients. And a gradient, all it is when one color blends into another color. So you can actually, it's almost like we colored it in with shading. And as a matter of fact, shading is a gradient, right? From a black to white or a combination of certain colors. So we're going to master that right now. So we're going to blend two colors so they can blend into each other so it can look really cool. All right. So we selected this ice cream shape. And if you're in the layers panel, right, you're going to see it. Let's go ahead and lock the text, right? And that way we don't have, if you haven't locked the text, I went ahead and locked it right there. And let's open up the properties or click on the properties layer right up here. And now you should have this box selected, which is a triangle. And let's go ahead and we're going to move over to our fill. Right here, this little white box, our fill. We're going to double click that and we're going to open up that swatch panel, right? And it has a lot of different colors here, right? And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that we get the gradient. So if you look over here in your panel of all your colors, you're going to see a gradient, right? You're going to see a black to white gradient. If you hover, it's going to say white, comma, black. You're going to see all of these recipes, but one's going to say white, comma, black. Click on that. And now, again, it was right here. I'll undo so I can show you again. Fill. Let me undo this. See what, oh, well, let me undo. Maybe because it's a simple color. But I'll put it black, white. All right. So again, fill, black and white gradient, right? So now what we're going to do is, now that we have the gradient there, we've selected it. See how it's black and it kind of fades into the white? We're going to go ahead and we're going to actually alter those colors a little bit. So we'll go to gradient options right here, gradient options. And when you click that, it's going to bring up this other box here, right? And this gradient box allows you to get really detailed on what kind of gradients you want to do. So here's the right color, right? And it's black. And here is the left color, which is white. But we want to make it look like an ice cream cone. So we're going to double click this gradient slider, and then double click it and brings us to another swatch. And in this swatch, we're going to choose a dark brown. And now it reflects in our cone. And then instead of being white on this side, we'll double click this one. And we're going to go with the lightest brown. Okay, or maybe even lighter. No, that's too dark. We'll go with the light one, right? And in here, in this gradient slider, in the middle part, you can basically customize where you want the gradient to stop. Right now, it blends right in the center. But if you want it more dark on one side, you just drag the gradient over it. Now watch what happens with the actual cone. You start seeing that it's actually a lot lighter on the left, and your anchor point gives it more of a customized shade, so it doesn't just directly hit. It's almost like if the light is coming from a different angle. And that is going to be one of our key moments in animation, is working with the light, playing with it so it looks like the light is coming from a certain direction. Again, if conversely you wanted it more darker, you'd move the slider over, and that's what you'd get on your gradient, right? So I like it more to the left. So my gradient is nice and colorful that way. And you can choose whatever you'd like. All right. And that's how you basically create a gradient, right? Before we move on, let's go ahead and let's hit, and there's of course our gradients. You can just exit out of those. And let's go ahead and Command S, because we want to save our work. And there you go. We saved it. So now we'll continue. We're going to put some sprinkles on these, ice cream cone. But before we do that, we want to move the ice cream cone to the back so it can look realistic. So what we need to do here is we basically need to unlock the artwork over here on ice cream. And this is a great way to show you how to move things around. You're going to grab the ice cream cone and you're going to drag it underneath the ice cream. So the cone is under the ice cream. So there you go. That's excellent. So one more thing that I forgot to do, and I'm going to go double click this now, is I want to create, let me go ahead and go back to this. If you double click that and you're in this weird kind of faded background, you're going to want to click this arrow right over here. It's going to take you back, right? We're going to click that ice cream cone, go back to properties, our stroke. We're going to basically make it a little thicker, probably about 5 points. See how that? Yeah, 5 points would be good. So now it kind of matches the thickness of our stroke of our ice cream. All right. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make some sprinkles, right? So go back to the layers panel, right? We just opened up the layers panel, and we want to make a new layer. So we come back down here. We've did it already a couple of times. So we'll click that new layer, layer 4, and we're going to double click that. We're going to call this sprinkles. SPRINKLES, sprinkles, right? And we're going to actually move that layer up because I want that on top of the ice cream, right? And make sure that it's highlighted. We always want to make sure that we highlight the layer we are working on. So that way, again, we can move the sprinkles around and we're not messing with anything. But again, now let's go ahead and lock your artwork, and we're going to lock the ice cream cone. So that way we can't select it and mess it up and tweak it out and do things that might mess up our work. We don't want to go back and hit a lot of undos, especially if we get as we advance through the lessons or your projects. But I will say this on locking your layers. If you can't get something to work, chances are your layers are locked. And you have to come over here and unlock them if you're going to be moving or grouping or doing things. And I'm going to show you some of that towards the end of this lesson. So let's work on our sprinkles. All right, so we're going to click over here on our ice cream symbols, right? Our ice cream area, and we're actually going to zoom in. I want to zoom into here because we're gonna be working in a lot of stuff. So we're gonna come up here. We're gonna hit View, and we're gonna come all the way down where it says Zoom In. Boom. Right. So I want to select in this area, or actually, we'll click on top of the ice cream right here. View, zoom in. There you go. View, zoom in. And then you can basically move it around to where it's there. I'm going to go ahead and hit Command and the plus sign, which is right next to the delete key. Command and the plus sign, and you can actually make it bigger. If you want to make it smaller, right next to the plus sign is the minus sign, and you hit Command minus. And again, these are shortcuts that we can use, and you can get it nice and big so that right now when we make our sprinkles, you have a lot of space to work with. You always want to, if you're working with tiny details, you want to blow it up, make it big so that you're not having to struggle trying to get all the details with a tiny pointer. So now we're going to grab our ellipse tool again. Remember, it's hidden right under your rectangle tool. So we'll click on that and we'll hold it down, right? And then we hit our ellipse tool. We've used this before, right? And so we could make circles, right? Circle style of sprinkles, but that'll look like pepper or salt. So instead, let's hold this down again and let's go with the rectangle tool. Now we're going to stick with the rectangle tool, right? So let's go ahead and make a rectangle right, I would say right here, right? And when we do this, let's go ahead and go to our properties panel and let's change our stroke to 1 point, right? Because we have a lot of stuff in here, but you're starting to see that there's a gradient in there right now. We don't really want a gradient. We want our sprinkles to be something a little different, right? So let's go ahead and go to our fill. And again, hopefully you're getting used to this. Go to our fill and let's pick, I'm going to pick magenta, this pink. Nice and festive, nice and cool, right? So we do that. And now we're going to go to our live corners, right? So if you look here, you're going to see these live corners and you're going to see the crosshairs turn into a pointer again, but now a pointer with like a sad face right under it. And what this is going to do is going to allow you to manipulate the corners here. So what you'll do, we're going to be dragging these corners around, right? And you're going to see these red rectangles. So if you grab one of these live corners and we drag it toward the center, you're going to start seeing that the edges, right? The edges turn red. So there's, as you get towards the center, you're gonna start the edges turn red. Now we don't have a square anymore. We have something that resembles a pill, right? Or a long piece of sprinkles, if you really want to get technical, right? So now what we're going to do we want to make sure we make a lot of these, right? And we're not going to just copy and paste. We're actually going to go and we're going to convert it into a symbol, right? And the reason why we do this is because when we want to make a lot of an item, in this case, we want to make a lot of sprinkles. Instead of doing copy and paste, there's another way to do it so that you can actually adjust everything at once. A better way of working, so to speak. And that is using symbols. So we're going to hit Window. All right, then we're going to go navigate all the way down to where it says Symbols. And we have this symbols pattern coming up. Now, we already have some pre-made symbols, some splatters, a blue bar, almost like a orange button, right? Lots of these different things, but we want to make, since we selected our little sprinkles, we want to make our sprinkles a symbol. So we'll hit this new symbol button right here, plus sign, and the new symbol dialog box comes up. And we're going to call this sprinkles, 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 right? So we're basically going to, now that we're creating the sprinkles, we're going to click OK. Right? If a dialog box appears, just hit OK again. So now look in our symbols little palette. We have our little sprinkles, right? Our little sprinkle deal. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually utilize them. So the artwork now appears as a symbol, and the rectangle artboard that we used is also now it's already locked in as a shape because we just locked it in as a symbol, right? Now we're going to go to our selection of our toolbar. So we'll go to our selection tool right over here. Sorry. We'll cancel there. We'll click that. Again, you could hit V at any time if you want. And then now we're going to basically do is, instead of having to create all those or copy and paste, all we need to do is click and drag. And see, now we don't have to paste it because we already have it in our symbols. We can always drag these in, right? And we can drag them into our artboard as many times as we want, right? And we can basically just fill it in. So let's go ahead and grab a bunch of sprinkles and throw them in. Don't worry about where they go. We're going to move them around in a second. Okay. So we just, once we made a symbol, see, we don't have to copy and paste anymore. We can just grab. And again, if we make, let's just say that you're working or get hired at an ice cream shop, and you're always making new pictures, and you always want to use sprinkles as an ingredient, you could always just pull it up from. I think that's good. I don't want, maybe that's a little too much. Maybe it's a little too many sprinkles. Maybe I just want sprinkles on the top of it. There we go. So that looks cool, but I kind of want a little more detail. So now let's go ahead and edit these, right? So what we're going to do here is that we can basically edit any of these by itself, right? So let's go ahead and double click whichever one you want. I'm going to double click this one right here. And it says you are about to edit the symbol definition. Any edits to the symbol will be applied to all of its instances. Do you want to continue? And that's telling you is that whatever you do to this one symbol, it's going to change all of them. And you're like, whoa, I really didn't want that. But there's a way to do one individual. I'll show you in a second. But this is the advantage of symbols. So if you wanted to change the colors, like, oh, I wanted blue sprinkles instead of pink. Instead of going to each one and changing the color individually, you can just go to over here and change the color to a blue, and that would be it, right? So, okay, so we want to let's edit this real quick. So, when you get this hazy or this almost like this muted layer on top of your artwork, except for the ice cream, we are in what's called isolation mode, and to get back, you just have to push this little arrow right over here, which I'm not going to do, right? Because I want to keep us in isolation mode for the second, right? So we're going to click the rounded rectangle artwork in the artboard. In the properties panel, right up here, we're going to maintain the width and height, right? In the properties panel. We're going to maintain the width and the height. Hold on. Okay. Was deselected, or select this, and so once I clicked on the sprinkles again, our properties came out. Remember, because when I wasn't selecting it, it didn't have that. So we're going to maintain this. So I don't want to change the proportion. So see this little button over here? It basically means whatever I do, it's going to keep it the same. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to go to point. I want to have the X value or the width right here. Go to 0. Oops. Let me cancel that. Cancel the gradient. I want this to be, and again, I'll go back to magenta. I want this, I messed that up real quick. 0.3. Okay. 0.3 inches. 0.3. Right? And so now the height is going to be 0.1. 0.1. So now, see what it did? It maintained everything, and it basically shrunk it, right? So now we're going to hit return after the last value we entered, and then we're going to hit the escape key. Now it shrunk all of the sprinkles. Do you see that? Now all of them are smaller because the way we did it, we kind of free-formed it. So let's just say we wanted a different size. We just did that, right? Before we move on, let's go ahead and hit File and then Save. And that way we don't lose anything, right? You can also hit Command S and it'll save it. So we have our sprinkles. So now it changed everything, but now we want to like adjust everything one by one. So now we're not going to go into our symbol mode. We're just going to select one, right? And we're basically going to move it around. So now we're going to move the sprinkles all around. So we can basically, if you hover at the edge, you get these two arrows and you can kind of start making them upper right hand corner. If you click on that, click on it, upper right hand corner, you get these two arrows that allow you to change your sprinkle orientation. Right? I'm going to leave that one the way it is, like one straight. Or maybe I just edit just a little bit because there's no true straight, right? Boom, just a little slightly. I want more of my sprinkles on top, just like if we sprinkled it on top. So I'm going to basically bring it down this way. Click on that. Move that a little higher. Now, you can play with this. Move these around. Give it a more realistic look. So we're going to play with this a little bit. And now you have your cool sprinkles, right? And what we want to do is we want to basically group all these things together, right? We want to group everything. So let's go ahead and we're going to zoom out, hit Command and minus, or we could also hit View, zoom out. And you can zoom out, View, zoom out many times, right? And then View, zoom out. Okay, I'm going to zoom back in with hitting Command plus sign, right? And getting this into our area. And you can close the swatch panel if you have it open like me, right? So there we go. Now we have our sprinkles on our ice cream. Yours probably looks better than mine. That's okay. So I'm going to hit the layers panel. I want to do something right now. I want to hit the layers panel, and then I want to unlock the artwork and the cone, ice cream cone, right? I've unlocked the artwork, sprinkles, and ice cream cone. And I'm going to grab the corner right here, and I'm going to click and drag all the way across so everything is highlighted. I selected everything. And what I'm going to do now is, now that I got my ice cream cone how I want it, I'm going to group them together. So you can go to Object over here and you can group, or you can just do right-click, group. So now it made it all into a group. So now if I click on the side and I move, if I grab a sprinkle and I move it, it moves the whole thing. So now I don't have to worry about having to move all those little pieces. Because remember, if I didn't have them grouped, I'm going to go ahead and undo twice or 3 times, right? I'm going to ungroup this, undo group. If I try to do that with one of these sprinkles and I try to move it, right? Let me actually ungroup this. If I went ahead and grabbed it, see what happens? Or I try to grab the ice cream, see how it happens? You can start taking things apart and you don't want to do that. So grouping is a really cool technique. So I just grab over here again, grab the whole thing, make sure everything is selected, all the sprinkles are selected, right click, and then group. Now they're all grouped. So now, and I clicked off the stage, now it's all one deal. So they'll all move together. No matter where I grab it, it works. So there we go. It's grouped. Again, now we hit Command S to save to make sure we don't lose any of our work. And now we need to do a couple of things. We're going to work with effects, right? So we're going to go and we're going to look at the ellipse tool. So we're going to go over here and we're going to create one more thing here. And so let's go ahead and lock the sprinkles, lock the artwork, and lock the cone, right? So now everything is locked. We can't mess with anything. Let's go ahead and we're going to hit another new layer, right? Or put it at the very top where it says layer. It's going to say layer 5. We'll basically do. We'll call this a. Let's just call this shape. SHAPE, shape. All right. So we're going to work with a shape right now. So we're going to go ahead and get our ellipse tool, and we're going to make a circle, right? Grab the ellipse tool, hold down the symbol tool or the shapes. Oops. Always hit cancel or undo. So hold down where the rectangle tool is, hit the ellipse tool, and let's make a big circle, holding down shift. Remember, hold shift so it can be a perfect circle. And then click over here on the left-hand side, and let's make a large to cover the entire ice cream. Now, if you're like me, you may have to do it a couple of times. All right. So there it is. And if you don't like the color that I'm using, or you don't want a color of ice cream, let's change that to I don't know. Let's change it to a. You can do it to a dark blue. That might look cool behind RDO, or a light blue even. I think I'll do light blue, just because I like the color, right? And again, I did that by just going to making sure that the circle is selected and then fill. So in the properties panel, let's go to the stroke and let's type 0 for the stroke, right? Instead of 6 points, let's just type 0. Again, you can go down if you want to click the little down deal to where it's nothing or 0. You can type it in. So there is no stroke. It's just a plain circle, right? And if you want to mix your colors, you can. You can definitely go with what they want as far as a recipe. You can click on this fill, right? And then you can go ahead and you can do a color mixture by doing C, 0, magenta, 50, yellow, 36, okay, and then 0. And again, it gets us back to this color, but I don't like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit fill. I'm going to go back to our swatches. I did that in the color mixer over here. See that color mixer? So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to do blue because I like that blue. It looks cool. A little light blue. All right. And then now we're going to go ahead and close that panel. Right. And now we have a cool color. So there's a place called Quick Actions. Right. I'm going to go ahead and click over here. Right, offset path. Quick Actions, it's right here, right at the bottom, where it says Quick Actions. You're going to go to in the Properties panel. We're going to choose and send this to the back, right? We're actually going to send this to the back. So we're going to arrange, send to back, right? But it doesn't do anything. If it was not on its own layer, it would go to the back. But since we have it in layers, we can just click Layers over here. Get our shape, and we can just send it all the way to the bottom to the back. Boom. And that's what it looks like. I just grabbed the layer and moved it to the bottom. That's the beauty of layers. We can actually move things around how we want them, right? And we don't have to mess with all the back and forth. So now that our layer is in the back, now we have a cool background. I love that background. Looks boss. I love that color. Right? Now what we're going to do is make sure that it's still selected, right? Which it is. Okay. And we're going to go and we're going to go to the Properties panel, Quick Actions. We're going to use the Effects button, all right? So this little button right underneath the Appearances, Appearance, Fill, Stroke, Opacity, and there's a little button that you can barely see right here. It's called FX, right? We want to make sure that we click that button and we can choose an effect. And we're actually going to choose zigzag. So you can do lots of different cool effects here. And you should really experiment with them when you're working on your project, right? And we're going to go to zigzag, right? And so and it doesn't have zigzag right off the top, but we're going to have to go into something called distort and transform. And in here is another menu, and here's all the cool things. And here's where we have zigzag. And watch when you click it, right? A zigzag right here. Click that. And now we made a cool zigzag to our shape. And this is how you get all kinds of cool different tricks with shapes, and you start working with different patterns. But the only way you're going to know them all is if you practice with them. So you must practice when I give you the time to do it, because that's the best way to learn, right? So our size is going to be 0.14, and then we're going to make sure that this radial button is absolute, right? And ridges per pigment is going to be 18. Okay. And then we're going to hit OK. Boom. That looks boss. Command S. Save your work. Even if you have to come over here and then save. Mine's grayed out because I just saved by hitting the shortcut Command S. Right? So there it is. Toppings galore. Looks awesome. Looks great. We're almost done. All right. So now we're going to start aligning our artwork, and then we're done. So what we want to do here is you want to distribute everything, make sure everything's centered. Now, typically you can eyeball it, but on digital programs, it's better if you use the tools that they've given you. So we're going to do this, we basically need to make sure that our layers are unlocked, right? Because we need them to move. So go ahead and unlock everything. And don't worry, we're still grouped. So make sure you come over here and click on our selection tool, or you can choose V, right? And what we need to do is we need to align our artwork, right? And I love the way that this looks. So we need to make sure everything's centered. So, so now that we've had this in the center, okay, we're going to select everything and choose select all. So basically, we're going to go to select all, right? Okay. We're going to deselect the text because I don't want to just align this yet. We're going to hold on Shift and click that text and deselect the ice cream bar text. Boom. We're going to leave those alone. All I want to do is center all of this stuff here, right? Primarily just like our little shape and the ice cream. So when we do that, we're going to basically keep everything, and we're basically going to click again as we keep them together. We're going to click the where's my mouse? We're going to click the group tool again. That means we added that shape in the back to our overall group, right? And then we're going to, let's make this a little smaller. So I'm going to grab one of the corners. I'm going to hold down Shift again because I want to keep it the right proportion, and I'm going to make it a little smaller. Probably that would be probably this. Oops, I released it too soon. Undo, and I let go of the button, right? So now I'm going to bring it up here, and I like the way that looks. I don't want it to fill up as much, so I made it a little smaller. And the reason, and again, you could probably, if I want to get exact, and I want to make this, 3 the width 3.75, I could do that. 7. That's good enough. Oops. 3.775 is fine. All right. So now we kind of got it to a certain size. That's the size that they wanted. So now what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and center it. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all. All right. We're getting into position where we want it, and we're going to select all, and we're going to go to select all. So it selects everything, including our toppings galore. And we're going to go to our properties menu. Now we're going to align everything. So in our properties menu, right, we're going to click on the align selection, right? So there's an align selection right here. So there's this little box where it says align to selection, right? And we're going to align to artboard from the menu. So we're going to click this. It says key object, align to artboard down here at the very bottom. So again, this little align to artboard. Okay. So it's going to align everything from here on out to the artboard. And then we're basically going, after we do that, we're going to, it's going to look at our artboard and it's going to try to center everything according to the space. So let's basically click horizontal align center, which is down here. It's this little button right there. I'm clicking around it so you can see where it's at. We're going to click that and see how it moved ice cream bar to the center, right? And if you want this a little higher, you can do that, right? So I'm going to move this up, remember? And if you're moving it around, you're going to see this line up here, right? If you see that line, that's just telling me I'm dead center. And so I'll click that right there. And I want to move my ice cream bar just a little higher. And if it moved a little bit, I can always go back here and align to the center and align this. So if I move this a little bit off, align to the center, and it moves it around. So now for sure, everything is perfectly down the center. And that is our awesome lesson for this. Hit Command S, and you are completely done. All right. So those are all pro moves. Yours is topping galore. This is our little flyer that we made. And again, This is our clip art, and this will definitely something that we could animate an animation. For example, if I want to make this into a GIF, I would animate the back symbol and make it spin really slowly, really cool, and maybe make the toppings galore move out, or maybe move in and out. There's a lot of things we can do when we animate it, but we've created something that we can animate later down the road, second semester, and we can start messing with things. Everything that you create from here on out, especially when now we're going to jump into our project tomorrow, think of it as something that you're going to animate later, because we're an animation class and I want to make sure that you're able to do this. So the final thing you need to do is hit Command S, and we're going to do one more thing, and that is Command P, right? And that's going to print it out on our cool printer. Under printer, you should look at one that says Arico Officio SP C43DN. Every computer in my classroom has it. So you're going to do that, and you're going to hit print. Okay. And when you hit print, you're going to hear my printer move, and it'll be printing it out. All right. Just make sure that you put your name on it, right? And the period number, and then you turn it in. And that is your project. Okay. And it's basically going to be a test grade. You guys rock. We will see you tomorrow for our project. Have a great day, guys. Mr. Juarez, over and out. Bye.